Guys, welcome back to a brand new Screen Team. My name is Chris. I'll be your host as we go through 3 new movie reviews for you this evening. And right now, I'm being joined by a good friend of mine and brand new to the Screen Team. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Timex. Timex,
hey, how are you doing?
How are you, sir?
Thanks for inviting me.
For those who don't know, Timex is a living legend. He is he's a huge figure in the local music scene. He's a rock star. He is an actor. He is man. What don't you do?
I try to just do anything that seems like it's fun.
Yeah, and you do, man.
Right,
you do fun stuff.
If it's fun, I'm all in.
And you are a lover of movies too, correct?
I do love movies. I've watched a lot of them over my lifetime, so I was happy when you invited me to come do these.
Are you specific to a specific genre, or do you like a lot of different kind of stuff?
I like a lot of different kind of stuff. Much like in life, it's just got to be fun. I prefer old movies. The newer stuff is okay, but for me, the older the better. Obviously, I like the 80s stuff because I like everything from the 80s. Is it
just a sense of nostalgia, or just because you grew up then and that was important to you?
Yeah, probably a little of both. They're movies that I watched growing up, and just some of the movie productions was better, especially when you get into the older black and white movies, which we're not talking about, but the acting and things just seemed to, that whole era of Hollywood, 80s back, was just kind of its own unique thing, where now everything is reboots and remakes and recreations of old movies with new names. And
they've come out of ideas, man. They've ran out, man. They've ran out. But we've got 3 pretty interesting flicks we're going to be doing for you today. A movie that I am excited to learn about and to know about is Scarecrow, Dr. Sin, correct?
Ryan, Dr. Sin, and this it's a Scarecrow of Romney Marsh.
Man, I had heard nothing about this. You told me about it, and I want to know more about it. So we'll get to that a little bit later. We'll also be doing a review of
Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
That's right. That's right. But first up, we're kind of going off the grid a little bit. We're not doing an older film. We're doing something that has come out in the past 10, 15 years, right?
Right, yeah. This one came out 2014? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's Get Him to the Greek, which is actually a sequel. It was a spinoff from the original movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Right.
Yeah, so they really liked Russell Brand's character so much in that they actually wrote the character for him. It was originally he was going to be a writer. He was there to write a book, and they go, Russell's too much of a rocker.
Right.
So they kind of recreated the whole character in Forgetting Sarah Marshall for him. It was so popular that they gave him a spinoff movie all on his own, which is Get Him to the Greek.
Right, and that's something you don't see a lot. You see a lot in television, but in movies like this, you don't see that a lot. Spin-offs. Obviously, you see it in comic book movies and space operas. You see kind of spin-offs with that because you wanna cash out on the image and the brand. But you don't see that a lot with comedies and dramas. You don't see a lot of spin-offs.
And what I really liked was that being a spin-off, they took the approach that it was its own movie in itself. They actually wrote songs for the band. So you have those movies where you have a rock band, you watch it, and they have one song that they play through the entire movie every time the band is that same song. With this one, they sat down with actual writers, wrote songs for it. They released albums. They created the whole character, back history. Who is Aldous Snow? Who the rock star that Russell Brand plays? For the crowd, they made T-shirts that the crowd wore in the crowd. They spent all day teaching the crowd the lyrics to the song. So when you watch the video, people in the audience are singing along. This is a band they've seen, forever, that they know. And I thought that was really neat how they took that. Plus, using a lot of Russell's own stories. I've read all 3 of his books, and they're little things that happened to him in life that they just kind of wrote into the story. Well, let's add that, and we'll say it's Aldous.
Right.
And so I thought that was really neat as well.
So the movie's called Get Him to the Greek. Who is the Greek, and who's got to get him to the Greek?
The Greek is the Greek theater in California, which is where they've got to get him to. The story is about the music industry. It's basically about a record company that is on the verge of losing their money. You really, to understand Get Him to the Greek, you've really got to watch the extended version. Okay. If you watch the edited version or the TV version, it's like watching Cheech and Chong on TV. You've missed all the good stuff. So get that extended, the Viagra edition of Get Him to the Greek, and watch that. You'll really learn a lot more. But it's the story of a record company that in the music business has changed now, where record labels are folding constantly. So the label says we've got to do something to really make some money, which is played by Puff Daddy, the owner of Sean Combs plays the owner of the record, and he does a really good job. They let him ad lib and just kind of go off, and you can, as his character develops through the story, his acting gets really good. But he has a business meeting, and he says, we've got to do something to save the record company. What are we going to do? If you watch the bonus scenes, you'll see where they really say the record company is about to fold. They took that out of the movie, but it's in the deleted scenes. So they decide, what we need to do is get this rock star who was on their label, which was Pinnacle Records, that they called it. And they go, he's in England. So they get together, and they have, what's his name? Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill plays the character who comes up with the idea, let's get Aldous, let's put him back on stage, let's do this big show, we're going to televise it, we'll make a live album, we'll get up all this nostalgia. It's kind of like a when Guns N' Roses came back idea, you know, so let's get this old rock star, we'll put him back on stage, and then Jonah Hill's character has to go to England to collect this rock star who is now off the wagon. If you watch the American version, it just takes right off where he's off. But in the British version, it has an opening sequence where it takes place at his house, and he's all clean and sober, and he gets into a fight with his girlfriend who says, I liked you so much better when you were partying.
Right.
He goes off the wagon, and they assumed for American audiences they had to shorten it down a little bit to get to the punchline, so they just took that all the way out. But so with him being now off the wagon and partying and rocking it up, Jonah Hill's character who is what was his name? I can't remember. But anyways, he has to go and pick him up.
I'll get it for you here in a second.
Aaron Green.
Okay.
Yeah, he plays Aaron Green. Aaron is the A&R guy for the record label. He goes to England, meets with Aldous. It's hard just getting him out of there because he goes from bar to bar to party, constant excuses. Oh, let's just stop here and we'll do this for a second, which turns into this big crazy scene. Just getting him out of England, they go through the airport where they get searched. So, you know, it's all that. Once he gets him to America, Aldous has had the plane transferred to Las Vegas instead of going right to England, right to L.A. Finds another party. They end up partying hard in Vegas. They get on the plane. They get searched again, which is another funny scenario that happens, all the way getting him to the show. Aldous in the story has a girlfriend who, in a lot of ways, it kind of paralleled what Russell did later in his life, where he married Katy Perry. In the movie, he was married to a pop star singer, Jackie Q. And so you've got all of that going on, and you kind of follow this guy through the ups and downs of what addiction actually does to him through the whole time. He eventually finds himself secluded from people, he's alienated his friends, he's upset the record company, and it spirals down to where he starts discovering even how his past actions have affected his life now. Children that he doesn't know about, right. All this sort of thing, where he kind of, at the end, decides that he's got to really do something different and just bring it back to the music and to the show.
So why is this movie, obviously you had told us earlier that you like older films. Why is this one so special to you?
I like rock and roll type movies, so I see you guys did Light of Day. I really liked Almost Famous. I like all rock and roll movies. Plus, I'm a huge Russell Brand fan. So I was really just all into this one. Being that the character was a lot like him, and understanding some of the backstory of what was going on. And it's just really a generally funny story. It made me laugh out loud really hard the first time, several times I've seen it. And there's not a lot of movies that will just make me stop and back a scene up so I could laugh at it again. And this was one of those that did that.
Do you have to be a musician to like this film?
You don't really have to be a musician. You just have to understand the music business and put yourself in these two characters' places. What if I was the guy having to pick up the rock star? What if I was the rock star? And so, if you have an idea of music, you can follow along pretty well with it, especially if you've seen Forgetting Sarah Marshall, because this just kind of flows off of that as well.
There's a few cameos from the people.
There are even there's a lot of small cameos through this movie. Lars Ulrich actually has a part. He plays a character with roles and speaking parts. I think is probably his first acting.
Wow, I did not. I guess I didn't notice that.
Right? Yeah,
my goodness,
he's Jackie Q's boyfriend.
The movie's called Get Him to the Greek, and it's one of those you can find on DVD. Coming up after the break, we're going to review Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It's coming up next right here on the Screen Team.